Hey, good morning and welcome to MDY online Bible class. Today we're going to talk about the health benefits between raisins and donuts. So hang on while we read together this week's parable from Jesus. If you want to read along with us, we're in Matthew chapter 15, beginning in verse 1. And it starts with this. It says, "Some Pharisees and teachers of the law came to Jesus from Jerusalem and asked, 'Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? They don't wash their hands before they eat.'" I want you to understand something before we continue here. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law, the elders they're talking about, had these man-made traditions and rules and regulations that they set up in order to legislate their behavior so that everybody could judge how righteous they were by their behavior. So these behaviors had very little to do with where their heart was with God. And that was the problem between them and Jesus. They measured everything in the wrong way. And they sought to be right, to be righteous in all the wrong ways. And so they focused on actions and left out their heart. So it goes on to say that Jesus replied to them by saying these words. Couldn't have made them happy. But he said, "You hypocrites, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are but rules taught by men." So then Jesus called the crowd to him and said, "Listen and understand." And notice he specifically did not call the Pharisees and the teachers to him because they wouldn't listen. They couldn't hear the truth that he had to say. And he said, "What goes into a man's mouth does not make him unclean, but what comes out of his mouth. This is what makes him unclean." And Jesus is not talking about what comes out like if somebody's sick and they're puking their guts out. He's talking about our words, how we behave toward other people, that kind of stuff. And when Jesus refers to unclean, he's talking really more about being right with God or not right with God. Okay? Then the disciples came to him and asked, "Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this?" Well, of course he knew. That was the point. In fact, there was nothing he could truthfully say and not offend the Pharisees. And Jesus goes on to say these words, "Don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? But the things that come out of the mouth come from the heart. And these make a man unclean. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are what make a man unclean." Not right with God, sinful, we'll say. "But eating with unwashed hands does not make a man unclean," or unrighteous, not right with God, so to speak. So what's the big deal here? I think the big deal is this, and Jesus does not go on to say anything about what we do to make our hearts clean, but he's just putting the point out there that, okay, the Pharisees, they are not seeking the right thing. And if you want to seek righteousness and being right with God, you need to seek things that are right with your hearts, that help bring healing and goodness to our hearts. It's kind of like this, to stay along with Jesus' parable here. It's kind of like if every day you had the same choice of snacks every day, and you could choose between donuts or raisins. And let's say every day, let's say you just love donuts like a lot of people do. I love donuts too, not necessarily these, but I love really good donuts, unfortunately. And let's say every day you went to this snack. In fact, it became more than a snack for you. Let's say it just became the steady diet of everything you ate were these donuts. Let me tell you, you would not be a healthy person. I would not be either. But let's say that if you had the choice to choose raisins, which are high in minerals and nutrients, these things are good for you. And let's say instead of choosing donuts every day, which your heart may desire, but you know, okay, that's not good for me. I don't love raisins quite as much, but I know they're better for me, so I'm going to choose this. And let's say that happened. Let's say that was reality. You would be a much healthier person if you chose the food that was good for you. And so when we're talking about the issue of our heart is what connects us to God. Okay? And so in a physical sense, an unhealthy heart is a heart that cannot pump blood well. It can't pump blood efficiently because either the disease of the heart just doesn't allow it to work well, or maybe there are blockages in there in the arteries. That's why people have like bypass surgeries, is to remove the unhealthy part, to remove the blockages. And so that's us. What are we doing to remove the blockages in our hearts between us and God? Because there's a lot there. If you don't believe me, I want you to listen to these two verses from the Old Testament. We'll begin in Jeremiah 17:9, and it says this: the heart is deceitful above all things. Okay? Above all things. The heart is deceitful. And it's desperately sick. Who can understand it? Okay, so whenever we get sick, whenever I'm sick, I was sick a few months ago with this stomach bug, and I wanted nothing more than to get well as soon as possible. That's the way it is. We want to be healthy. We want to be firing on all cylinders. So if our hearts are sick, if our hearts are not allowing us to connect with God in the best way possible, why would we not do everything to make our hearts healthy again? And to remove whatever blockages are there. In Proverbs 4:23, again, we have these same words. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Going back to what Jesus says, the words that come out of our mouth, the attitudes that we have toward people, the attitudes that we have toward anything, essentially, the way we treat people, that all flows from our heart. And when those things are not right, that means something's not right with our heart. When we have bad attitudes toward our parents, when we don't like what they're telling us to do, and we don't like that they're on us all the time to clean our room or to do this chore or that chore, it's not because there's a problem with them, there's a problem with our heart. And so what are we doing to make our hearts healthy? I would just encourage you to look at what you need to do to make your heart healthy. And it could simply be that you need to work on your thoughts. The Word of God says, take every thought captive. So that's not an easy thing to do. It takes work. And let me just say, though, that as I look at our teens and our youth group, man, there's an incredible amount of talent out there. There's some incredible athletes, incredible musicians, people that are highly skilled writing, and just great scholars. And you know why? Because you work at it. And so I want to encourage you, if you want to become healthier in your relationship with God, work at it. And that includes dealing with our thoughts. If you have bad thoughts about people, bad thoughts about yourself, just negative thoughts about the world, then work on that. Okay? Work on trying to have more positive points of view, more positive attitudes about things. Maybe you need to be careful. Of course, any youth minister's got to say these things, but maybe you need to be really careful about the TV shows you watch, about the movies you watch, because those things can really affect and infect our hearts with unhealthy things. The music you listen to. Am I saying that everybody needs to listen to worship music 24/7? I'm absolutely not saying that. I like worship music, but it's not all I listen to. Okay? I like listening to all stuff, but I'm also very careful that I listen to things that are not overly negative, things that are not overly violent, things that are not overly sexualized, or because I have to guard my heart, and it takes work. So I just want to encourage you in asking yourself, what diet am I feeding my heart? Am I feeding it a steady diet of donuts? Man, those yummy powdered little donut things. Or am I feeding it a steady diet of something healthy and good and nutritious that's going to help remove whatever barriers there are between my life and God? Because I want to be close to Him. I want to be a righteous and holy offering to him, as we read about in Romans 12:2. So I want to announce just a couple of things before we finish up this morning. One is this Wednesday is Backyard Youth Group, and we're meeting at the Connell's house this Wednesday, 6:30 to 8 p.m. I just hope that everybody possible can be there. This past Wednesday, man, it was crazy encouraging. We had a huge group, and it was exciting, and it was fun. And so thank you, everyone who participated. Thank you for our parents that showed up and helped sponsor that. Also, I want to announce that we are starting a new thing this school year. It's similar to what we've done in the past with our leadership teams, but we are starting an MDY student cohort. It's just a group of students working together, investing together to make our youth ministry as good and as healthy as it possibly can be. That is available 100% to 8th grade through 12th grade. And this group, the student cohort, will be meeting once per month. And then 6th and 7th graders will be a part of it. They will have a little bit smaller role to play, and they'll meet with us once every quarter. So I just highly encourage anyone who's interested in investing a little bit more and being a part of lending your voice to making our youth ministry a great place, then join the student cohort. We'll be announcing really soon when our first meeting will be. So I'm very excited about that. And so are several students have talked to me about it already. And then I also want to remind you, the end of this month, September 25th, 26th, and 27th, we have our annual fall camping trip. We're going to go camp at Happy Lake Campground out in Claremore. We do have a rain out date for the weekend following, so we'll see what the weather does. But right now we're planning on that weekend, and we hope everyone can join us. Hey, have a great Labor Day weekend. It's a holiday if you're traveling. Hope you're having a great time. Be safe, and we'll hopefully see you soon. Take care.